Welcome everybody to the 11th Kids Knowledge Seekers Workshop. And today I'm your host Rick Crammond, and I'll be here with Keyvan Davani, who will be asking some questions of Mr. Kesh, and we'll try to present the information in a way that the children and all of us can understand. So let's go in. I'm interested to see what Keyvan has to say there today. He's got something lined up. And we also have Mike in the background who might have some questions and answers for discussion here. Okay, Keyvan, are you there?
Yeah, sure. Good evening, Mr. Kesh, and to all knowledge seekers. I want to thank, first of all, Rick and Vince again for organizing, co-hosting, and coordinating everything by now. And I have two pretty short questions, and one question that would probably consume more time because it needs a lot of explanations. Well, let me ask the question that needs to be, needs more time in advance. That would be, since I listened to the 5th Chinese Knowledge Seekers Workshop and the 19th Health Teaching Workshop and the 49th Knowledge Seekers Workshop, and I really love the explanation which you give, Mr. Kesh, where where for my part I begin to understand the totality, going beyond the chemical and everything that's been taught to us in schools. And I really also love the drawings that you made, where the processes, the natural processes actually that you're explaining become so visible. So this is, I thought, would be really illustrative and really useful if we could, like students, young students in schools or what have you, or even university, would get a maybe more a total picture. And could you summarize those parts maybe which you have explained in the last few workshops in detail? Especially, what the GANs, the production of GANs, or how the totality of magnetic gravitational field strengths are produced, illustrating it with the 2 ring magnets, again, in a more, let's say, layman terms for kids and younger people. That's the one question I have. And the other one would be, I think it was in the 18th or 19th Knowledge Seekers Workshop, because I'm going through all the workshops now as a preparation material for the film. And there's one Knowledge Seekers talking about the principle fields. And he asks you whether, what happens when can you go deep inside the principle fields? And you answered, you cannot. I mean, it must have a reason why you say something at a certain point of time. But you said you cannot go there, and if you went there inside the core of the principle fields, there's nothingness. I think these were your words. Could you elaborate on that too, on the principle fields?
Let's talk about the principle fields. The principle fields that's why we chose this name. It means the essence, the origin. And the knowledge of man and the technology in the hand of the man is not so advanced to be able to reach the absolute center. And in so many ways, when you look at the structure of a magnet, which we try to show and we see, this is a magnet. This is a ring magnet. What you see as a physical part is when the fields in the center, which you don't see anything and is empty, have reduced in strength enough that they become at the matter strength.
Mr.
But
Kesh, we're not seeing the video right now, so
the video is on. I
no,
can
it's
see.
spinning, but it's not going.
Okay, we go again. Can you see it this time? I think you have to do your little test. Because you are spinning for me too.
Well, mine comes through on my screen. Do other people see it there?
Vince is spinning too now. You're out now. Vince is up, so you should be able to see mine too. Can you see it, or is it not there?
I didn't get Vince's coming up. I don't get yours coming up either.
I saw Vince coming and going.
Oh, okay.
He was waving hand. He's rolling again, and you're rolling.
I seem to have like a bandwidth issue here going on. I'm not sure what's happening. I'm wondering if it's at my end. But the live stream's having trouble with the either the Skype is hogging all the bandwidth, which could be.
Because I see Vince. In any case,
Okay.
can we carry on? If you consider a ring and a ring magnet, the center, which is empty, everybody thinks is hollow, is actually where most of the strength of the magnet sits. And when you come to the ring and you pass the ring, the magnetic field does not finish by the ring, but the physical dimension of the field. It carries on to lower strength and submatter strength. So the principle, the center for man, technological knowledge at this moment is impossible to achieve. Even for advanced levels of races who understand the space technology fully, you always go around the parameter of center. And when you reach center or near center, you become part of the totality. Because if you reach that point, now you radiate out too. So your fields are added to the fields of the matter. It's very much the way the GANs works.
Okay, we do have the video now, Mr. Kesh. Thank you.
So yeah, you can see it. This is what we call, I can show it in a bigger circle, which is plastic. The center, this is exactly the shape of a plasma. But now plasma in a two-dimensional, because plasma is like a ball. But when you cut a cross-section it, the maximum field, the one next to it, this is the metal one, is a magnet, ring magnet. The maximum strength sits in the center. And as the field reduces in the strength, at a point of the strength of the matter, it becomes the ring you see. And then further on, the field carries on, it doesn't finish here. And it goes below submatter. And still in that level beyond it, there is a life which exists in its own strength. As much as there is life as you go to the center. To get to the center, absolute center, is one of the impossibilities for man, because as much as there is a gravitational field in that point, there is magnetical or repulsion as well. And depends how much you can transfer your fields to be able to get from one to another or transfer one to the other one. A plasma to us is the totality of, from the center to the point of the physical manifestation. And then the fields themselves have a property of balancing or attracting or repulsion. What this means is if you got the two rings as we've seen, these rings is like infinity. They receive as much as they give in the three-dimensional, as much as coming out as going in. In fact, the magnet is very much like this. And it rotates in dimension within the structure. And the totality creates another field for itself. But at the same time, if the field strength is not there, you'll find out they find a gap, they find a distance where they can be with each other. And in so many ways, this is the simple way you can explain the work of a plasma. What comes out of this side has to go underneath and come into it. That from what comes out of it, this side, which goes back in there. And it's like a traffic jam. And you cannot get more than a certain number of fields through. And for the two magnets to be able to allow the fields to go from one to another, they need a specific gap. This specific gap, you see, if I move, the other one moves. This specific gap is literally the distance for the fields, for example, from here to there, to lose part of their energies that a number of them can reach and go through this. And that's where the distance is decided. Not all the fields which come from this magnet will ever go to the other side of magnet. Partially they interact, they lose, partially deviate to the other points. So this gap between the two is the gap which allows enough fields to be lost to the environment and absorbed from the environment that can come through the back of the other one to come up. So in fact what it is, what goes through the north has to come out of the south. And if south cannot allow, if north cannot allow more than a certain amount to come out, it cannot receive and it cannot accept. So it looks for a point that enough fields are lost in the environment that the balance can go inside. And that's the distance of the separation of the magnets. This is called gravitational magnetic positioning. Because gravity, as they gravitate towards each other, magnetical as much as they repulse. And this is the distance. And then when you go into the space technology, you increase, you have the possibility to increase your gap or decrease it, and then you create a position. That's how the burning of the fuel has become a history as we are used to it. And at the same time, when, for example, you see this plastic is still in a ring form, but is not of the metal, the iron, or whatever it is, a composite which has a magnetic field, and behaves as a magnet in this environment. If you can produce a field which in this magnet be of the strength of the plastic, then you find out the plastic will create its own position in respect to the other magnet too. So the same behavior will be seen by the plastic. And now that we understand this, we have the knowledge to create gravitational magnetic field of the plastic. In the coming time, you can bring a magnet which is only for plastics. We have shown this years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe more, in a video where we use 2 strong magnets, and with it we can move plastic. Because we create an environment which in gravitational magnetic field is after a section of the plastic. Now, ask me your next question.
All right, that was very enlightening. Thank you. The other question I had is that I don't know which topic you were talking about. Once you were talking about Kirlian photography and, you know, the aura. You explained what the aura is that people talk about, and it's nothing else than an atmosphere of magnetical gravitational field strength, right? Is that what you said? But how?
Aura, yeah, for the children, if you want to understand the aura in a simple way, aura is a atmosphere around the body of the man or an object. As I explained, that the magnetic field of this magnet does not finish at this point, it still carries on. And if in this environment around it, you create a field which you can see the motion of these fields coming out, this becomes the aura of this magnet. So now you see this aura, let's say as green. If I change the strength of this magnet, you most probably see the aura of it as a red color, for example. If it is very hard to understand for children, aura is very much if you hold your hands next to each other, the heat you feel in between the two hands from another hand. When you, for example, you put your hands like this, you feel a heat. This is the interaction of your auras, where the magnetic field from your body, because it's made of magnets, it's plasmas, when they interact, some of the interaction reduces to the strength of what is heat to our body, which can be detected by our body as a feedback. So you want to know what the aura is, that's what it is. Hold your hand near to each other, you feel your own aura.
And the colors that are displayed in the Kirlian, what is that? I mean, how can
the colors, because our body is a composite material, so it creates different gravitational magnetic fields. Colors, which you see at colors, these are a strength of magnetic fields. So the aura of a man is like a sun, radiates fields, and the interaction of the fields with this environment creates different color, as I explained, very much like the ring here. So if you eat a strawberry today, you might have a pinkish color near your stomach, and if you have cheese lunchtime, it might be yellow. Because in the stomach, the energy released in the gravitational magnetic field creates a different, what do you call it, color in interaction with the field of the Earth. The same as what we see, the gravitational magnetic field of this planet in respect to gravitational field of the material which is its surface, which is water, is seen as blue color when you look at the Earth from atmosphere, because H2O in interaction with the gravitational magnetic field of the center of the Earth, water has its own plasmatic magnetic field. When it interacts with the with the gravitational magnetic field of the center of the Earth, creates a blue color. And that's why our planet is blues from wherever you look at it. That's why it's known as a blue planet, or we call it the four-wheelers. Because man is the only race which uses wheels for transportation. Cars, we call it. It's known as a race of four-wheelers. Nowhere in the universe you find four-wheelers, but men have become very good at it. When you look at the sun and you see this color of the sun, or what you call the aura of the sun, the magnetic field around the sun in interaction with other entities around the sun, the color of the sun does not come from the sun itself. The material on top of the sun is in a plasma condition, and when that plasma interacts with the gravitational magnetic field of the center, creates the golden color we see.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
This is how aura is. The aura, what you see, is the interaction of the fields in respect to each other.
So all the suns are not the same color?
No, all the suns are not the same color, unfortunately, because they have different strength in the center, and when they interact with the plasma outside, if it's a different material or different strength of plasma, they create a red, orange, or blue color stars, or white, brilliant white colors. Any other question?
No, that was actually it. I was just going to ask you whether you could explain it in a more, I don't know, in a way that kids also can understand, or younger people at school, explaining, this process in the CO2 kit. Because I really loved it, the way you explained it in the 5th Chinese Knowledge Seekers Workshop, I believe.
Yes, what happened? Yes, okay, I understand. What happened? We have we have copied the work of a leaf. On a leaf on a tree, what happened? The leaf of the tree, if you have a leaf like this, I'm not a very good drawer. The leaf has a front and a back. The front is made of a slightly different material than the back. Slightly different. And the gap between the front and the back is covered with liquid, which this liquid has some sort of a salt content. I try to go in that you can see it. And what happened, the leaf, even to you, it looks so solid, but it's actually made of plasmas. It's a GANs, it's a nanolayer, spaced. And this space actually is like this on the leaf. There are a space like this. And these spaces between the leaves, between these ganses, create a gravitational magnetic field exactly like these two magnets, which, in fact, this field is very much equal to the strength of the CO2. So what it does, it pulls the CO2 into the hole. And by creating that environment that the field strength is of the CO2 enters inside between the salt. It releases part of its energy and it becomes a gas outside, but inside it becomes a GANs, or gas in nanolayer state that is detectable. So, in fact, between the two layers, we have made a magnet for CO2. And that's what the leaf does. And what we've done, we have done the same thing. We have made a box. We have taken one leaf, which is a copper, and we have nano-coated it. And then we have put another copper zinc plate on the other side. So we have filled up the center with salt and water. And in conjunction between the field from the nanoplate, from the zinc, and the materials and the water in the salt, we create a field, magnetic field, exactly as you saw with the leaf. And what happens now, the field inside is of the CO2 strength, and oxygen and carbon and CO2 are outside. So what it does, because our area in the container is bigger and stronger than in the strength than the CO2 which is hanging around, all it does, it literally, exactly like a leaf, it pulls it in. And then we have managed to convert this into a solid state, the GANs, and in this process, we extract CO2 from the environment. So if you look, the work of the CO2 box is exactly like the work of a leaf. We have learned, as I said, how to make magnets of different materials. And now this is an environmental magnetic field.
If I put two copper plates, let's say, instead of the zinc plate, is that the same process then? I would still create that atom?
No, okay. You create now because you change the copper to another copper or a non-nano-coated copper. The environment here changes. Is not the strength of the CO2. Now the strength is different. So you have a different magnetic field strength, which is usually the same as copper. Now, what you're going to collect at the bottom is a copper, because these two, copper and nano copper, are of the same strength. So they interact with each other, and the nanomaterials literally from the nanoplate comes off in floating, and it just drops off. In the olden way, in the chemical system, you do in plating, which you used to get the atomic copper from one plate to another. But because the gravitational magnetic field of the copper plate and nano copper plate are about the same, so they interact, and the weaker one, which is the copper nano in a single state, moves away, but by the time trying to get to the other plate to plate it, it interacts immediately with the oxygen in the water and creates a copper oxide. And that's why at the bottom you get a green, bluish color copper. If you had no water and you could create the same magnetic field, you will find your nanolayers from one plate to the other one. So if you change, for example, the zinc gives you CO2, the copper gives you copper oxide. If you change another material, you can create sugar, CH3, which is essence of life. And this is how life started on this planet. No aliens ever brought man to this planet. The beauty of it is that when you extract the CO2, you bring yourself amino acid, which is the essence of life, which is protein, and then this protein in conjunction with the water and the minerals led to creation of life cell, or what we call life. And then over billions of years, accumulation of different field strength has created human body.
Okay. Thanks very much. I just have one small question. So, once the fat, the amino acids, the protein are created on the surface, if I smell that, if I put my face like near it and just smell it, would that have any effect on a human being?
As long as you don't digest it and don't touch it, no.
No, I don't. Okay, thank you.
The thing is, that's what we say in the institute, which is opened up. It's agreed, is done. Most of the people, if you heard it, we have opened in conjunction with our university, has become part of the university structure in Italy, and in this process, we'll teach how we produce these things. And in fact, if you look at the amino acid, which is the protein, and you look at the connection between the carbon, you'll find out the oxygen and the carbon are about the same, and oxygen is a connector, magnetic field connector, and it attracts the fat from the air with it, or creates a magnetic field environment that the oxygen, nitrogen, and hydrogen come together as protein. This is how life out of nowhere, as we said in the discussion, you have nothing and then it rains in the desert or somewhere dry, and after a small time you see fishes growing in the water after 2 or 3 years, because there were no fishes there, for example, before, but the creation of amino acid and the process allows the life to start in a single cell and others.
Thank you very much. Very enlightening. Thank you. We
Thank you very much. That. I think we are our 40 minutes is about enough for the children, as we agreed.
I think you have an appointment and so on.
Yes,
you have to get to there as well, right?
Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. Have a nice evening and morning, and we meet on Thursday morning.
Okay, that sounds great for the Knowledge Seekers
very much.
Workshop. Number
Thank you very
50.
much indeed. 50,
Thank you,
yeah.
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
Kesh. I'm
Bye.
going to make a
Bye-bye.
video.
Bye-bye. Bye.
I'm going to make a video for a simpler way to explain the initial MaGravs or the all of this for you guys.
Okay.
I'll put it together and it'll be taken care of. Okay.
All right. Well, that might be useful for even the kids' workshop here. Yeah.
I think
Okay.
it'll be able to visualize everything for everybody in it. So, all right. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, all. Thank you, Mr. Ketch, Rick, everybody.
All right. Thank you to everybody, and especially to Mr. Kesh for taking time out once again out of his very busy day to enable us to learn more. Okay, that's
Excellent.
the 11th Kids Knowledge Seekers Workshop. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Bye for now.
And in so many ways, when you look at the structure of a magnet, which we try to show and we see, this is a magnet. This is a ring magnet. What you see as a physical part is when the fields in the center, which you don't see anything and is empty, have reduced in the strength enough that they become at the matter strength.
Mr.
What?
Kesh, we're not seeing the video right now, so...
The video is on.
No,
I can
it's
see.
spinning, but it's not going.
Okay, we go again. Can you see it this time? I think you have to do your little...
Pretty short questions, and one question that would probably consume more time because it needs a lot of explanations. Well, let me ask the question that needs to be, needs more time in advance. That would be, since I listened to the 5th Chinese Knowledge Seekers Workshop and the 19th Health Teaching Workshop and the 49th Knowledge Seekers Workshop, and I really love the explanation which you give, Mr. Kesh, where where for my part I begin to understand the totality, going beyond the chemical and everything that's been taught to us in schools. And I really also love the drawings that you made, where the processes, the natural processes actually that you're explaining become so visible. So this is, I thought, would be really illustrative and really useful if we could, like students, young students in schools or what have you, or even university, would get a maybe more a total picture. And could you summarize those parts maybe which you have explained in the last few workshops in detail? Especially, what the GANs, the production of GANs, or how the totality of magnetic gravitational field strengths are produced, illustrating it with the 2 ring magnets, again, in a more, let's say, layman terms for kids and younger people. That's the one question I have. And the other one would be, I think it was in the 18th or 19th Knowledge Seekers Workshop, because I'm going through all the workshops now as a preparation material for the film. And there's one Knowledge Seekers talking about the principle fields. And he asks you whether, what happens when can you go deep inside the principle fields? And you answered, you cannot. I mean, it must have a reason why you say something at a certain point of time. But you said you cannot go there, and if you went there inside the core of the principle fields, there's nothingness. I think these were your words. Could you elaborate on that too, on the principle fields?
let's talk about the principal fields. The principal fields goes, that's why we chose this name. It means the essence, the origin. And the knowledge of man and the technology in the hand of the man is not so advanced to be able to reach the absolute center.
Welcome everybody to the 11th Kids Knowledge Seekers Workshop. And today I'm your host Rick Crammond, and I'll be here with Keyvan Davani, who will be asking some questions of Mr. Kesh, and we'll try to present the information in a way that the children and all of us can understand. So let's go in. I'm interested to see what Keyvan has to say there today. He's got something lined up. And we also have Mike in the background who might have some questions and answers for discussion here. Okay, Keyvan, are you there?
Yeah, sure. Good evening, Mr. Kesh, and to all knowledge seekers. I want to thank, first of all, Rick and Vince again for organizing, co-hosting, and coordinating everything by now. And I have two